there's this weird thing happening on the planet right now, and it has to do with social media. It has to do with phones. It has to do with texting. It has to do with, all these emails, newsletters from everywhere. There's this weird phenomenon that I think we're moving out of now, whereby I think we're just on the cusp of a shift. And that shift is around the idea that we've been separate. We've been separated by all those things. Those things can bring us closer together. But, Adam and I were looking at an article probably a month ago or even a couple of months ago. And this article was very profound. And then we watched a TED Talks about the same subject. It was all about depression and anxiety. And what it said was, that's been on the increase for several years now. And a gentleman who did this amazing TED Talk showed that the reason that the number one correlation to anxiety and depression is a feeling of separation and a lack of sense of community. And the lack of sense of community makes us feel isolated. And when we feel isolated or disconnected, we start to feel disempowered, and there's a sense that life is taking us over, and it starts to get it can be overwhelming. And it also causes us to isolate even more, because the more we feel like we're getting it wrong, or we don't feel loved, or we don't feel enough, or we don't feel lovable, it begets, it's basic magnetics, it's basic frequency, magnetics, physics. As soon as you start feeling that way, you start to, attract more of it. So one of the things that I felt so drawn to share today is that playground page is all about connecting to community. It's all about making us feel like we're not alone. Our Facebook groups, I talk about you guys all the time, in our programs. You guys know that because you've been on the programs. But I know that our clients start to feel a connection to you. And I want them to, because I want them to feel what I feel, which is just such a sense of reverence and love for you. But it works the other way around. When we start to feel isolated, and we've been texting and doing social media, and so many people are working from home now, it becomes that much more important to find ourselves picking up the phone or connecting with others. And Amber and I, it's okay to share, right, Amber? Amber and I were having a conversation about how she's been feeling overwhelmed and a little bit anxious, sort of left in charge of something that she's creating from nothing, and it's almost like we start to feel these self-imposed expectations because we get isolated. And what is so important in these times of great change, whether you're building a newsletter or whether you are simply being a mom to your kids, or whether you are working on computers, or whether you are doing technical stuff, or whether you are even out grocery shopping, or whatever it is. And that is not to be alone. Hence my little buddy.
Right on cue.
Right on cue. It's pretty good, right? So, and he is actually an amazing example of this. When he starts feeling insecure or isolated or whatever the case, he does exactly what he just did. He jumps up on my lap, or he tries to get me to play. He bees not alone. So when we're in a hierarchical society where there are people supposedly in power and whatever else, here you go, little buddy. When there are supposed people in power, or we perceive that there are people above others, or we perceive that we've been, we have to get it right, or we perceive that we have to, make sure that we do our job or whatever. We take it on ourselves, and we don't realize that there's an atmosphere. Like, what's shifting in humanity right now is we want to be able to contribute to each other. But in order to be able to contribute to each other, we actually have to be vulnerable to each other. And in order to be vulnerable to each other, we have to ask for help. And one of the things that's happened in this dog eat dog, go, go, go world is we've forgotten to do that. And what I want to share today is just in the spirit of our team and in the spirit of everyone we work with. It's time to shift the culture, which is why we're doing the Global Awakening Tour. The Global Awakening Tour is because we want to find the people that want to create community around, being the bridge for humanity, the heaven on earth construction crew. So that's part of the philosophy that I was mentioning to Amber earlier. She is not on her own, and neither are any of you. And when you feel isolated, one of the things that can happen is it's like, well, I've got my job and nobody wants to hear about what I'm talking about. And I don't want to, I don't want to bother anyone, or I'm just supposed to do this, and what is wrong with me, and all that kind of stuff. And in that moment, all it takes is one phone call. No, you're not being an idiot. No, everything is okay. No, Lord knows, Susanna's gotten a phone call like that. Although, Susanna, you probably could have taken a little action that way this week too. Jeannie and I do that all the time. So do you guys know what I mean? It's a world where we do the go, 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 do thing. And we get so isolated in our go, 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 do that we can become very insular and very focused on getting our day right or accomplishing things or whatever. And this ties into a great quote that I picked up today. I think it was on Abraham, not sure, but it's like, if you're not in your heart and you don't feel good, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing until you're back in your heart and feeling good. Like, the first priority is feeling good. The first priority is feeling in love with what you're doing. Not, I'm going to do this and get it done and then I'm going to feel good. When the feel good isn't infused into what you're doing, then what's the point of doing it? So that really is the message. The message is, you're in connection with life. Life is responding to the energy with which you connect to it. So if you're not in that space, there's no point in doing what you're doing in the first place. So finding that place of feeling connected and feeling joy and feeling at peace and feeling okay is what has to happen first, especially in this work. If you have decided to wake up, then that's it. That's what there is to do first, not after. It's not you accomplish things, then you feel good. It's actually you find a way to get in your groove, to get in your heart, to feel understood, to feel heard, to feel listened to, and then you do what there is to do. And if you don't do that, it's going to be hard and filled with struggle. And that's just the way it is. That's just how it's going to happen. So, comments, questions?
Thank you for confirming everything I've come to understand. Yay, I'm not alone. I'm thinking and feeling this way, and that's exactly what happened when Jeannie texted me this morning. You and I talked about this, Jen, where I that thing that you're explaining,
Yeah.
I called it separation anxiety.
Yeah.
What I call separation anxiety. That's
Perfect.
exactly what I call it. I was like, oh, that's what's happening. I'm having separation anxiety. Oh, isn't that fascinating? What is this
But
about?
think of it like separation from humanity anxiety,
Well, no, that's what I mean.
right?
It's well, from myself or
Yes.
from that love that I am or all that thing that you're talking about.
Perfect.
Like that's all that's happening. Oh, okay. And then as soon as I let that be okay, like as soon as I let that be okay and that I'm having resistance about something, or like I know that I'm making up something or I'm projecting, I know it. So I'm like, okay, so I just lied in my bed with the sun on my face and just asked and like in because I have so many tools from you and other people, but mostly you from the
Yeah.
last 9 years and doing flight school and all these things. I can do it in like 3 minutes, probably less than 5. That probably would have took like knows how freaking long, if ever, if I didn't have them, right?
Yeah.
But and and then I went, oh, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right then. And then I'm like, huh. So I let myself have it.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, well, if I was in my heart, what would I choose? Right?
There
Like,
you go.
but I made it be okay that I wasn't in my heart. But I
Yeah.
just got curious that, well, if I was in my heart, what would I choose? I'd be like, I get my fucking ass out of my bed and I'd get dressed and I'd go and meet Jeannie at the goddamn coffee culture is what I would do.
Yay!
So guess what I
Yay!
did?
Awesome. 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 Awesome.
And
So
an
you
awesome,
guys,
yes, and an awesome
yeah.
conversation with my sister on the way, sharing all of that you were saying. I was sharing mine with her because
Awesome.
it was just brilliant. I love
Perfect.
our life. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome, Sonia. And Amber, you probably felt a lot better after we talked too. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, always, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't be alone for long, you guys, because here's what happens energetically. The way you're thinking about yourself, other people will start, first they won't believe you, but then you'll start convincing them that you're who you say you are in your head by keeping it not heard. So it's really important that you have those little voices be heard so you're no longer overwhelmed and you can be redirected to a plan of action or just let yourself be heard to be freed. So yeah, so thanks you guys. So anyways, okay, so onward and upward.
So Jenny, I have a question. I wanted to comment.
Yes, okay.
I have a derivative of that. And
Okay.
maybe some other people do too.
Go.
I don't ever feel alone. I don't ever feel, clearly with 5 children and a
Yes,
house full of
I get that you don't feel alone, dude.
But
Yeah.
and I have an amazing network of friends and family.
Yes.
So it's not that I feel alone, but I find myself still, like I want to isolate. Like I think I don't want to deal with life. So I just find myself like wanting to be alone and wanting to isolate and wanting to pull back so that I don't know if it's a sense of overwhelm or it's I'm tired.
Well, there are 2 different versions of it. And when I look at you, Kristen, there's 2 different versions and everyone may find this. One of them may find them to be in one of these 2 situations. For you, when you feel like isolating, it's because sometimes you have a lot of people pulling on you. And in order to ground, you need to get away from it all. You need to, like, you've got so many people around you, you need the opposite. You need to actually unplug from all of it, put the world outside of you, get back in your body. Jeannie doesn't know anything about that. So unplug, get out of and really, what do I want? It's like when we would go on those hikes, Kristen, it's like getting really clear on who you are, what you want, what's in your body, what's in your joy, because you're such a giver that you'll let yourself be pulled by everyone and listen to everyone else's concerns. So that's one thing. Isolating is not a bad thing if you call it something different. I would say unplugging from consciousness to reestablish your own solid connection with your knowingness is not, that's all good, right? So the problem is that when people have nobody around them, they also need to remember that it is a dance between when you're alone figuring out what feels right to you. And when your ego gets a hold of your mind and your mind starts to wander everywhere because your ego wants to tell you that you're not good enough and you're not all that kind of stuff. There's another piece of it though for you. So what happens is you get in your head that you're not good enough. That's the instant you need to phone a friend. So there's the other side of it, which is that for you, which is when you feel like you're not doing what you should be doing, or when you feel like you're beating yourself up for what you're eating or how you're not taking charge of your life, or it's anytime we feel shame or when we feel very hard on ourselves or self-judgment, that's another reason for isolating. And so we start to remove ourselves because we don't want other people to see how the ego works. Is when we're judging ourselves, we think if we talk to someone else, they're going to feel the same way about us that we've been feeling. And so that means just more people are going to be judging us, or we're ashamed of judging ourselves and we should know better and we don't want other people to know that we've been judging ourselves. Or what happens is we've been judging ourselves and the people that really know us know that we're judging ourselves and we want to get out of it before they find out that we don't know what the hell we're doing. Right? So,
or all of the above. Yeah, that
or
actually explains it perfectly the way you said it.
Yeah. So those are the reasons why we isolate. But isolating to get clarity is an amazing reason to isolate. So,
but I think I've been isolating for the second reason. Yeah.
Right. And what you want to do is you want to have yourself be seen by people who see you, who just refuse to believe any of the BS in your head. Those people, and the instant they talk to you, and the instant they, either just by listening or by reflecting back to you who you really are, or just by having compassion, the instant someone has compassion and truly hears you, what happens is, and that's the power of community. The instant that happens, it diffuses the energy of the self-judgment, because the instant someone that you revere and respect and love loves you back just the way you are, you now have a portal to doing the same thing for yourself. So that's the power of having the conversation, which again, I bet that Amber doesn't know anything about what I'm saying right now. So, so you got to have your peeps, you got to have your team, and you guys, we are each other's team. And on the playground, that's our team. And on the get out of your way pages, that's our team. And, it's like, remember that we're all in this together. Metaphysically, we're all connected by, well, anyways, we'll talk about that next time. It's a really powerful insight. We'll talk about why we're all connected and why we feel so drawn to help each other or to be of love and assistance to others. There's actually a metaphysical reason for it, but we'll talk about that next week. Okay.